We're live.
Are we live? Yes. Welcome back
What's up, dude?
to our newly branded, as of last time, the NAE podcast. We tossed around one or two ideas, or I did. You seem to be less interested in wanting to be included in that loop, to be fair. So,
if you're listening to what we've done already, I have to question
your listening interest. Yeah, that's for sure. Your algorithm on Spotify.
I'm gonna question your intentions because that's ridiculous. But anyway, yeah. Hey, what's up, buddy?
Yeah, I'm good. How have you been since the last time we sat down and spoke to each other?
Yeah, no, I've been good, man.
Cool.
Things are taking off with the kiddos and all their stuff, and winding down to the end of school. If you know me, that's a big driver in what keeps my time. So yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
Cool. Sounds
What about you?
good. Yeah, good. Since the last time we've been here, I've been and tested for Russellville Fire Department, which is hands down the most disgusting thing I've ever done in my life.
You texted me last week.
It was awful.
Hold on, I'm gonna read this.
It was good. Like, don't get me wrong, it was one of the best experiences that I've had physically, but I don't ever want to do it again. It was brutal on every account. I don't think that there was even a possibility that I could have prepared myself for that, despite the fact that I have been, in the gym. I've been making myself, ever so slightly more fitter than what I have been in recent years, but nothing, honestly, dude, compared me to that. It was brutal.
I'm glad you went through that, and I think my reply was keep doing hard shit because that's we come on the other side of that and find that life experience. So
yeah, for sure it was. I mean, I think the most difficult part about it, obviously, it started at 8 in the morning, so I was there at the fire department in a fairly below room temperature, room. In my last name being Roberts, the whole thing was in alphabetical order. So I was one of the last people to go and do it. There was 29 people went and tested. I believe 11 or 12 of them didn't pass. They didn't complete the overall test. But I went in. I'd been preparing for it for quite an amount of time. So you go in, you get your vitals taken, heart rate, blood pressure. They take your height, your weight, and stuff. And then you have to do a sit and reach test. So you set your feet against a board, and then you got to reach forward and test how flexible forward that you are.
And to be clear, we're talking about a physical testing.
Yeah, this was the physical agility. Yeah. And then you do that, and then you go into a separate room, and you have to do a set of sit-ups, set of push-ups, press-ups.
Push-ups.
19 push-ups I did, and then 32 sit-ups. You have a minute to do them. Not a minute to do both sit-ups and push-ups. It's a minute to do as many sit-ups as you can, a minute to do as many push-ups as you can. 19 I was pretty impressed at, to be fair, because if I'm honest with you, as of 3 months ago, I couldn't even do 5.
Well, that is impressive, and I want to call out the fire department right now because I got to say, I'm prior service Army, U.S. Army.
Mm-hmm. Desk jockey for the U.S. military.
And I'd like to do a little comparison real quick on the physical agility tests of the military versus the local fire department. 2 minutes to do as many push-ups as you can.
Yeah.
And you're expected at the age of 18, 19, I think it's 18 to 23 is like the first bracket. You're expected to do over 50 in order to pass.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Push-ups, sit-ups is quite a bit more. And so 19. Okay.
19. I mean, not to kick a boy whilst he's down. To be fair,
I'll just stop right there.
Not to kick me while I'm down. But that wasn't even the beginning of the test. To be fair, and then once you've done that, you go outside and you get they put a 50-pound vest on you, and then they'll put a blackout mask on you. So your PBA is called personal breathing apparatus.
Mm-hmm.
They'll put a mask on your face, it's blacked out, and then there's like a tunnel that's maybe 15, 20 feet in length. You've got to crawl to the end of the tunnel with the blackout mask on, turn around and crawl all the way back. Then they caught me by surprise. I didn't realize this was actually part of the test. They had the ladder truck that had the ladder fully extended to, I think it was 75 feet, between 75 and 80 feet. And it was at like an 80-degree angle, so it was close enough to straight up and down. You have to climb from the bottom of the ladder to the top. If you stop once, you get a warning. If you stop twice, you get disqualified. If your foot slips a rung at least once, then you get disqualified. And then if you don't make it to the top, you get disqualified as well. But this is all done with a 50-pound vest on. And, 50 pounds, it might not seem like a lot, but when you're wearing it over the top of the main part of your body, it is heavy, especially when you're trying to climb straight up and down.
Sure.
So I got to the very top and then touched the top rung, climbed all the way back down, and by the time I got to the bottom, my legs were fucked.
Muscle failure.
It was awful. Like, my left leg was just like shaking.
Yeah.
I could not get it to relax. And the test hadn't even started at this point. This was kind of just a warm-up, put you through your works before you go and do the test. Then they say to you, got 5 minutes to recover. They send you over to the test. The test starts as soon as you grab the ladder from the back of the truck. As soon as you touch the ladder, the test begins. So I grabbed it, pulled it out, put it on the floor, picked it back up, put it back in. It's like a 25-foot ladder. Then you go over to what's called a Kaiser sled. So it's a piece of 165-pound steel that's on the floor, and it's on like a track. And you stand over it, and you've got a sledgehammer, and you have to knock it back between your legs to 5 feet, I think it is. And that was when I started to really gas myself around about then, because obviously you're using a lot of cardio in that part of the test. Then I managed to get that back. Then you got to go and open a fire hydrant, and then you run, and you've got to drag 200 feet of hose, and that's the only part of the test that you can run. You got to drag it until it's straight. I ran for about 5 seconds, and my legs just gave up. And I ended up walking the rest of the way. Walked it, managed to get it to the end. But obviously, the farther you walk with it, the more weight you end up dragging behind you. Because the more that hose unravels, the more more hose you're dragging in the friction on the ground. So I managed to eventually get that, dropped it at the finish line. Ran over to the ladder. You've got to extend the ladder with the rope, where it's got a piece of string rope. You've got to overhand it the whole way, extend it all the way up, overhand it, let it come all the way down. You're not allowed to let it slip. And obviously my grip strength at this point was just done from climbing the ladder and then using the Kaiser sled with the sledgehammer. My grip strength was already done at this point. Then from there you move on to the stair climb. What's it called again? It's called stair climb and hoist, I think it's called. Mm-hmm. Where you go, and there's a 45-pound piece of hose rolled up on the floor. You've got to throw it over your shoulder, and then you climb a flight and a half of stairs to the balcony that overlooks the engine bay. And that's probably about maybe 35 feet up. And then over that railing, there's a piece of rope, and on the end of that rope is like a 35-pound piece of hose that's hanging maybe 10 feet off the ground, so 25 feet below you at this point. You've got to then hoist it up, just absolutely rip it up as fast as you can, and you're not allowed to use the end of the railing as leverage, so you can't pull it through the rope, over the top of the railing. So I started pulling up on this thing, and my arms were just fucked. I just could not get any more strength out of me, and I stopped, and the boy that was behind me, and he just starts saying to me, like, "Come on, bro," he says. "If you don't do this," he says, "we're going to let everybody know that you can't do this." And I was just like, fuck it. And I just started like groaning, like, like pulling this rope over the top of the railing. And I got it over, dropped the hose on top of the deck, walked through to the stairwell, grabbed the 45-pound piece of hose, threw it over my shoulder, walked back down the stairs, and then I must have been halfway, 3/4 of the way down, and I said to the guy that was there, I was like, do I get disqualified or points deducted if I throw up? And he said to me, no. He says, don't throw up on me. And well, I was like, well, get the fuck out of my way because I'm about to be sick. Like, I am going to throw up right now. And I stood there and I kind of took a deep breath, and then the nausea kind of went away. But the problem with this weighted vest is it's so much weight on your chest that you can't get that full chest expansion of air that you need. So you're already, starting to hyperventilate because you're breathing so fast. You're overexerting yourself. My legs were done. And then I got to the bottom of the stairs, and then the last obstacle is a 165-pound dummy, which you've got to drag through the engine bay. It's like maybe 25 feet, round a cone, and then all the way back over the finish line. As soon as I got that dummy over the finish line, I collapsed. I fell on the floor, and the guys that were around me had to help take the vest off of me and then help me up off the ground. But I did it.
But I love it. But
I completed it. I don't care.
So what we see on TV with those Japanese or the Chinese firefighters that are, have you seen this? Like,
what, the boys that'll run with the ladder and they'll
so that's not,
they'll throw the ladder down, and for some reason it extends upwards, defying gravity to the top floor.
That's not what we're talking about, right?
No, that's like the I don't know who it is. I don't know if it was the Ukrainian fire department, but no, that's
not what you're talking about here.
No, I mean, them boys are on a different level. But I can tell you now, like, I'd done quite a bit of extensive training in the gym, getting stronger, going running and stuff like that. And I thought that I had my shit together going into this test, and I can tell you now that when I came out the other end of that, it took me 3 days at very least to recover from that.
Listen. So, when you push your body to the most highest limits that you ever have before, it doesn't matter how in shape you think you are.
No.
It doesn't matter how much you have prepared for this moment. I don't think a lot of people just in training push themselves to muscle failure.
No.
And when you truly experience muscle failure, and when I say this, right, when I say muscle failure, okay, it means that you can no longer use that muscle. You can't tell your brain to do another push-up.
Yeah, your brain's gone into a state of, I'm cutting this off now because you're about to hurt yourself.
That's right. And so, yeah, man, I've been there.
Yeah.
I'm with you.
Yeah.
I have no, God, you brought up some memories. Because in the military, you have to do this every year.
Yeah.
You have to do it every year. You have to do a physical fitness test, push-ups, sit-ups, and run, right? And then there's always the foot marches and everything with the rucksacks. But all that aside, you're trying your damnedest to max out and pass your PT test, because God forbid you don't pass your PT test. If you're in training, you go into what's called a recycle. So you don't get to become a soldier yet. Yep. You get to go over to a fat camp and get your shit together. And all you're doing all day long now is PT at this point. But dude, it's tough. And a lot of people, I can't use any other way of describing muscle failure, but it's just, if you can watch it on TV. I've seen videos of these marathon folks that that all of a sudden they just collapse. Like that's
how I explained it to one of my friends back home. Was that I don't know if you've ever seen the videos of the guys that will finish running a marathon or a triathlon or whatnot, and they're just about at the finish line and they collapse. So they fall on the ground and they physically cannot get themselves up off the ground because they have no strength left whatsoever. And that's exactly what I felt like in the end of that test. My legs were, for about an hour afterwards, my legs were so hot. They felt so hot to the physical touch because of the level of blood flow that was returning to my legs, because obviously at that point your brain's like, shit, something's happened here. We need to get some, blood flow into this particular area. Is this
so
a video?
I want you to see that. This is what the fire department does locally for students, and it is.
Yeah, funny enough, you're showing me this now. I saw a video of something of. Obviously not this video. This is your video, but I saw a video of Russellville helping the schools do this.
Well, the Russellville Fire Department puts this on every year, and it is a contest with the students. And
look at that little kid's doing better than I did.
That's
unreal.
This is my point. I wanted you to see 9 and 10-year-olds because I didn't realize. I should have known, but I didn't realize that when you were describing what you were doing.
This is exactly
that's it right there.
Yeah, give or take. There's a few things that they're not doing. Like lifting a 35-pound piece of hose off the ground.
That's right.
But there's a difference here, and I think this actually explains and shows you something that is incredibly detrimental into trying to succeed at something that you're doing.
Yeah. Now, did you turn on a hose?
No, there's none of that. No.
So one of the last steps in that
is the hose.
Is turning on a hose,
yeah,
aiming and shooting down some targets.
Mm-hmm.
But the body drag is there.
Yeah, the body drag's there, and that little kid is hauling that thing.
I'm glad you got to see this.
RFD actually have to contact that kid.
That video is probably my children, one of my 3 children. But all 3 of my boys competed, and they're studs, and they've won.
But do you know what the crazy thing about this is that you're showing me is that this kid who's running and doing this, he's doing it what seems to be so effortlessly, probably is because he's doing it whilst he's having fun.
Yeah.
Like
not trying to get a job.
Yeah, he's not trying to get a job. I think that the level of stress that having a job, competing for a job has on top of you adds to that extra stress. I managed to finish the test in 6 minutes and 15 seconds or something like that. I can't remember what it was. But the guy that demonstrated that test that morning did it in 3 minutes and 20 seconds.
Wow.
And I believe that one of the records for RFD with turnouts, ball, mask, helmet, everything is just under 3 minutes.
That's impressive.
Which is surreal.
Yeah, that's impressive.
And to honestly admit...
And what's passing?
Passing, you have 10 minutes to do it, but you accumulate bonus points throughout the testing, which will put you higher... So what this is for essentially is that when RFD decides, right, we need new firefighters, we need rookies, instead of putting an advert out there saying, would you like to apply to be a firefighter, what they've done is they have done this prior to somebody leaving RFD or the fire department. So that then when somebody does leave, they can go on the list of people that have completed the test. And they can be like, right, these people are capable of doing this. They've applied. We know they want a job. And they'll call you and be like, well, essentially, do you want a job with us? That way they're not having to lose a firefighter, then go through 2 months of training process in order to find somebody to do this job.
Yeah.
It's done prior to. But yeah, it was good. It was worth it. And I've got my civil service test this weekend and an interview with the Civil Service Commission in Russellville. So
that's awesome, dude.
Yeah, that's tomorrow.
Very, very proud of your journey. Very, very proud. Just period. Mm-hmm. I mean,
no, I appreciate that.
It's not easy for anyone to do. It's not easy for someone to come from another country and do it. Absolutely applaud you, dude. That's fantastic. I'm glad that I'm glad also for anyone who ever, and this is funny, I don't want to switch gears. I know we switched gears a lot last time, but it brought up something I don't want to say, but always proud of someone who goes through hard shit. Mm-hmm. My buddies and I, when we're all veterans, and as we go out hunting, we always say we're going to do the hard shit, right?
Yeah.
You go through it purposefully so that you come out on the other end with A, life experience, and B, there's just something that you take away from hardship. So this morning, to switch gears again, same topic. My son didn't want to wear jeans. Okay, so my three boys, they don't understand what denim is, nor do they like it, and they don't care what denim is, but they don't wear it, right? They don't wear jeans, and I think that changes. I don't know. When we grew up, it was tough skins and Oshkosh or nothing. You know, we didn't have the athletic joggers that have taken the world by storm. But all my kids have ever worn for 12 years have been athletic jogging.
That was the same as me.
You know what I'm saying?
Because when I was a kid, I never wanted to wear jeans. I hated denim. I didn't like how it felt. I didn't like how it looked. So I would only ever wear, well, we call them trackies.
Okay,
Tracky
that
bottoms,
makes sense.
tracksuit bottoms.
Yeah. So
that was all I wore when I was a kid.
So today at 1:30, he's going to be doing a talent show, and he's going to be lip syncing with a couple of his buddies, and they're going to do a Backstreet Boys song. But we went out and bought him some jeans yesterday. And so this morning the conversation was, I don't want to wear jeans. I hate these. They don't feel good. And I'm like, dude, come on. You just one day, right? You can do
30 seconds
anything
on stage.
for one day.
Yeah.
You can do anything for one day. So we get out of the house. He's wearing jeans. We get to the donut shop. We're walking. He's like, why'd you make me wear these shoes? I was like, come on, dude. They're just, they're brand new shoes. My wife just bought them yesterday. And I was like, dude, they're just not broke in. Like, come on, dude. You can do hard things.
Has your son ever heard of the third world?
And this is where we're at. Like, this is our, I'm trying not to say it's all of our kids, but, I'll just observations, right? But I'm like, dude, you can do anything for one day. Come on.
Yeah.
You can do anything for one day. Just get through this hardship and let's get out on the other side of it. Let's learn that you persevered. We're going to get some lessons here. But just you can do anything for one day.
Yeah, just remember that you could be walking 25 miles to go and get some dirty water to walk all the way back so you can give yourself a disease.
Yeah, dude,
put your jeans on and be quiet.
I'm going to get into something. I'm not going to get into it, but I'm going to say this out loud. I think everyone should have to join the military, only because it's forced hardship. I think everyone should have something happen in their life that forces hardship upon them. When you get out on the other end, there's a lot of crazy people out there like me who bring it upon themselves. We invite hardships in. We make life very difficult for ourselves at times. But that's an adrenaline thing. It's a dopamine thing. I love the challenge. I love coming out on the other side of it. What I feel to be is a better person.
Yeah.
So I want everyone in this life, everyone that's walking around and breathing, to go through hardship. I don't care if it's voluntary or involuntary. I want them to go through hardship.
Well, if you go to the UK, for example, we have cadet school. Well, it's not school. It's more of like a social club thing, kind of similar to Scouts or, the Girl Scouts or whatever it is, but is military based. So you'll have, a group of teenage kids who are in school. Instead of going to Boy Scouts or whatnot, you can either go to the Royal Air Force Cadets or the British Army Cadets, and that's on like every Wednesday after school. And you essentially go through, very watered down military training through that. I was a Royal Air Force cadet when I was a little, when I was 13, 14, 15 years old. And you get to go and do things like go flying, go shooting. You learn drill. You learn, keeping uniform neat, tidy, keeping it uniform.
Dress right, dress.
Yeah, exactly. And a few of my friends, they were, British Army cadets. I didn't know anybody that was Royal Navy cadets. We didn't really have any Navy cadets around us. But I went on like camps and stuff like that where you do marching, you do drill. You'll have a parade at the end of the camp and you learn, bushcraft skills and stuff like that. Like in the UK, we have what's called the Duke of Edinburgh, which is essentially a challenge that you do when you're a teenager. And it's all these like bushcraft skills that you do, like you walk, and it's got orienteering and crafts and stuff like that.
Boy Scouts?
No, it's not like it's not Boy Scouts. So the Duke of Edinburgh, I can't remember who he is. He's one of the royals. I think it might be. I think it might actually be King Charles now. Who's the Duke of Edinburgh? I can't remember. Mm-hmm. Don't like them. But he's the one that runs it, and I don't know if you know who Bear Grylls is.
Oh, absolutely.
You know Bear Grylls.
Yeah.
He helps American. A lot with the.
No, he's not.
No, he's not.
No, he's not.
He's English.
He's not. He's English. I told you that. I'm kidding.
He's Anyway,
he's an American phenomenon.
We fact check in this podcast.
Yeah, American phenomenon. Bear Grylls.
Yeah, American. Yeah, the American, the American Royal.
He came out of nowhere.
Marines.
He came out of nowhere, dude.
Yeah.
And
anyway,
American
the
TV.
Duke of Edinburgh is like this like bushcraft kind of skills thing that you do, and it teaches kids how to do, vital things.
That's cool.
I've found that the United States doesn't really seem to have anything like that. You guys are just lawless over here. That's the thing.
Well, I mean, like I said,
goes back to what we were talking about the last time.
Yeah. Well, so voluntarily, we have the Boy Scouts, which is where
we have Boy Scouts as well,
where you do learn all of those things. What I'm talking about getting hardcore, right? So I spent a year in Korea during a tour of my military service, and every Korean male, every single one of them, is drafted into the Republic of Korean Army and has to serve 2 years in the Army. They have to.
Yeah.
It's not a draft per se because you're not going immediately to war.
Yeah, you're not going to war.
But it's service.
Well, I think there's a bit of a difference in the aspect of South Korea is constantly on the brink of fucking war with North Korea. So they need to make sure they've got a constant military ready to go at all times. Your guys' neighbors on the north are all happy, Canadians, and your guys on the south, you've got Mexicans, in your south and stuff like that. But you guys aren't at risk of constant war.
America?
Yeah.
Okay, gotcha.
Because you guys like starting it elsewhere.
Yeah.
That's the truth. I'm just joking.
I know.
No, but the UK, especially after the Ukraine war started, it was a couple of years ago. No, it wasn't. It was last year, I think.
No, no.
The UK. No, what I'm about to say.
Oh, okay. I was about to say, dude, that's been going for like 3 or 4 years.
3 years the Ukraine war's been going on, but the UK was about to try and introduce national service again, and there was a big uproar about that. People didn't want national service in the UK, but I don't know. I don't really have an opinion on it because I don't care.
Well, Again, we can pivot topics now. I just want to say the hardship thing. It's you started off with the fire department, and I'm glad you went through that. I think everyone needs to experience a prolonged amount of time of hardship. And when I say prolonged, I'm not talking about years. I'm just saying, a day, 2, 3, a week. That shit's good for you, man. It's really good for you. It is good for you,
100%, for sure. Yeah, but talking of Americans, by the way, that are lawless and like to do things their way, I was on the phone with one of my good buddies back home, Rory, who I believe you met at the wedding. Yeah. Well, no, Rory. He's helped you a lot with your sound.
Taught me how to do
your
this.
Sound engineer and stuff. So Rory recently got a job at a huge historic monument just a few miles from where we were brought up, Culloden Battlefield. I think I spoke about it a little bit last week. It was it was the last battle on British soil that was ever fought. It was the end of the Scottish rule of Scotland, and the England rolled in. Anyway, Rory works at the battlefield. It's now a historic monument. You can go and walk around the battlefield and see all these things. Rory told me something that boiled my piss to the point of fucking the other day. Dude,
Please tell me.
So he was telling me that one thing that Americans love to do when they go over here. So all over the battlefield there are stones that are on the ground that have engravings in them of the clans that died.
Yeah.
So you'll have like a stone that'll say McPherson. You'll have a stone that'll say McPhee or whatnot, and these are all kind of monument gravestones to these, rebels that died in Culloden battlefield. Well, the American tourists like to come over, and they'll kneel next to their clan stone.
Oh, no.
And get a photo with whichever one is there.
Oh, no.
And then he goes ahead and he tells me that one thing that Culloden battlefield, the historic Scotland, will receive quite frequently are parcels. Uh-huh. Apparently what the American tourists love to do is they love to take rocks from the battlefield and take them home.
Yeah.
They'll take them back to the United States.
Yeah.
But the problem is when these Americans, they take these rocks from the battlefield, they take them home, they end up feeling this immense level of guilt because they're like, I've just stolen this from the motherland.
Yeah.
So they'll then ship them back to Culloden, to the battlefield, with a handwritten letter saying, I'm really sorry, with direct, exact location as to where they found this rock, so it can be placed exactly where it was. But Rory was telling me that these aren't little pebbles that people are stealing. They're full-on, fucking garden ornaments that people are taking. Boulders, rocks, stones.
Yeah.
Now,
and paying the shipping.
More to the point, I feel really sorry for the baggage handler that's got to throw that suitcase in the back of the plane, and it's got 6 boulders in the back of it into the back and go back to the United States.
So this is confirmed now because I was listening to another podcast about a park ranger who works in the petrified forest in California.
Yeah.
And he said the exact same thing. They get mailed rocks.
Yes.
From a place that you're not supposed to take anything.
Yes.
And people get home and they feel guilty and they ship all this stuff back.
Yep.
I thought maybe this was an isolated thing.
No. This is Americans going all over the world.
Oh, okay. I was going to say worldwide, but
yes.
It seems like it's an American thing. Okay. So no, you haven't. None of your family has wanted to take a piece of the mountain with them or anything like that?
No.
Okay.
Because we've got rocks in Scotland. Do you know what I'm saying? I don't need to go home and be like, this is a rock from the arse end of nowhere in the south. How cool is this? And somebody will be like, I don't care.
There's something then to our culture about mementos.
I think it's just like theft.
No, I don't think. There's something.
Oil, rocks, and cultures. You love to steal them.
I'm telling you, there's a hoarding thing. Is hoarding a thing in Scotland?
Yeah, you still get hoarders.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because the hoarding thing, and for me as a man and a father now, and a son and a grandson, there's this thing about mementos, right? And heirlooms. Not saying that. Wait a minute. You said you had a piece of the Berlin Wall. Oh, you bought it.
Yeah, I bought it in a shop, though.
Right.
I didn't go along.
That's right.
I didn't land in Berlin and go to a hardware store and buy a hammer and chisel.
Maybe we all get dementia and we feel it coming, and we just need tangible things to bring back memory. I don't know. That's... Yeah, mementos. That's what
I think
we're talking about, mementos.
Anyway, he said that he was in the coffee shop where he works, and there's these American guys that are there. One of them was in a kilt, because he thought that was the thing that you're supposed to wear when you walk around. Because I go and buy, British people that come over here, they feel the need to go and buy a Confederate flag or, a liberal flag and go and walk around in their 1800s memorabilia through Russellville. But he was telling me that there was this couple that were sat there, and they're talking about where they're from, and the guy was like, "Oh I'm not Scottish. I'm Irish, and this is why I'm here, because my family, they came over here and they died." And the other American guy was like, "Ah, cool. Like, I'm Scottish too. Like, my family, they fought on this battlefield and they died." And Rory said he was stood there like, ready to fucking throttle these guys. Like, genius, just be quiet. I don't come over here to the United States, like I've said to you, and be like, whoa. you know, I'm sure I've got some cowboy in me. you know. But yeah, that's the thing with American people, you know, 100%.
Well, yeah, I don't know. It's interesting though that the conscience comes into play. You know,
Yeah.
I dig that. Everyone, if you've got things that you've taken from a historic place, and somewhere I have a damn Mayan ruins rock. I know because we went to Cozumel on our honeymoon, my wife and I, and I took a rock from one of the temples and put it in my shorts pocket, and it was a cargo short pocket, and dude, these things are pretty sure those were made out of granite, and it had a jagged little tip to it, and at some point I was walking around about an hour or so later, and I could feel like just something on the back of my knee, and it was blood. And the rock had sheared through my shorts fabric and had cut a tiny little laceration in the back of my knee, and I'm bleeding. I was like, well, that's what I get, right? The gods are telling me that I should put that rock back.
I was like, when we were kids, me and my dad and my sister, we went hiking somewhere, and my sister obviously was tired. And I don't want to walk, so my dad puts her on his shoulders and starts carrying her for the rest of the length back to the car, which was maybe like 2 or 3 miles back to the car. And he's like, "Holy shit! Like, she's so heavy. Why is she so heavy?" And we get back to the car, and Caitlin just starts unloading rocks from her pockets that she'd been collecting along the way.
Something about kids and
my
rocks,
dad
man.
was just like, "Are you for real?"
I don't know.
But look, I've just Googled here top 10 worst tourists by countries in the world, and we'll see if you can guess who's in the top 10. Okay, let's go on the travel Bible. This sounds... There we go. Some are polite, some are respectful and genuinely interested in the culture they're visiting. Others, well, let's just say they make you wish international borders had a no jerks allowed sign. So number 10, who do you think's at number 10?
Number 10. Oh my God, this is gonna come off extremely racist at some point in this, but
well, just let's remember that I'm trying to get a public service job.
That's true. And I'm the least racist person that lives.
Sounds like a racist.
Yeah, they all say that, right?
Yeah.
Okay, number 10. French?
No. Try again.
I don't want to try again.
Try one more time.
Okay. Borders. They need borders.
You're close.
Really?
Yeah, you're close in Europe.
Is it Spanish?
Germany. The over-prepared overlords. Okay, I don't know if that should particularly be written like that.
I'm trying to make sure America stays at the top. We're working from the bottom up, so nothing. America's not going to fall anywhere. They got to be top 3.
Well,
okay.
Canada is number 9. The apologetic attention seekers.
Okay.
Canada, the land of maple syrup, hockey, and tourists who are so nice.
They're removed, from the homeland, and they've got their governing body that resides across the sea. I can see that. They got to go over there.
Number 8, Australia, the down under overachievers.
Really?
Yeah, I've met a few Australians back home in the UK. They're not bad.
Yeah,
they're actually good fun.
I don't know that. Maybe 1 or 2 in my whole life.
You've met an Aussie once or twice?
Yeah.
Well, they don't. Nobody tends to come this far south of the, in the United States tourist-wise.
Right.
Number 7, France. The culinary snobs are number 7.
Yeah.
The French exporting wine, cheese, and tourists who think every other country's cuisine is a crime against humanity.
Yes, indeed.
That's true.
That and Italians with the cuisine. I have a feeling the Italians are kind of similar with that cuisine thing. Now, I was French trained from Le Cordon Bleu Culinary Institute, so all of my training was French-based culinary training, and I know how snobby they are. But yeah.
Number 6 is India.
Yeah, I was going to put them.
The bargain
I was
hunting
put them
swarm.
Top 5.
This is who wrote this article? The bargain hunting swarm.
I was going to put them top 5. Actually, I was going to put them top 3.
Yeah?
Yeah, I was.
Well, think again.
Okay.
Russia is number 5, the vodka-fueled invaders. This is not... Who wrote this?
I don't know. You're getting... we're talking fact checks, man.
Well, this is wrong.
What was the source?
Number 4, the Travel Bible.
Travel Bible, okay.
Yeah. Number 4, which is clearly wrong, is the United States.
Yeah.
Yeah, you didn't even make the top 3. The loud and clueless, which is true. Americans, one thing that I've noticed, especially about American tourists when they're wandering around the United States, is they're so loud.
Yeah.
These are so loud.
Yeah.
And you just walk around, like, for example, my dad used to be a taxi driver. And he used to drive these American tourists around. And he'd drive past, like, a stone wall that had been built. And they'd be like, oh, my God, like, look at that wall over there. And my dad was like, yeah, that's, like, 300 years old. You know, and they're like, oh, cool, dude. Can we, like, get a photo next to that? So my dad will take a photo of them next to this wall. And they're like, ah, no way. And they'll go back to the United States and show these people, this is like a 350-year-old wall. And my dad had probably seen somebody build it the day before in Inverness.
I'm going to get back to you, but I'm just going to tell you real quick. The other day at work, walking down the sidewalk, downtown Little Rock, on my phone, had some people in front of me that looked back at me because I believe I was being too loud and in their bubble, just walking and on my phone. But I got to look. So, yeah, you're not wrong.
It's true.
Yeah.
It's 100%. Number 3, United Kingdom, the sunburnt hooligans. That's true. 100%. Number 2 is Israel, the whole... I'm not going to read the rest of that.
So, hold on. I'm going to guess number 1. And I've got to...
Who's number 1?
It's got to be there. Okay? It's either Japan or China.
China.
Yeah.
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 The selfie stick conquerors.
Yeah.
If
I would have put a little more thought in it, I would have come up with and said China. Yeah.
Well, it's always the... is it not a record-breaking number of Korean tourists were killed in the Yellowstone last year because they'll approach bears and moose and they'll just get fucking ravaged.
Yeah. Meat Eater Podcast actually did an episode about that. Shout out Steve and team there. But they did a podcast on some goings-ons at Yellowstone, and man, people they gotta stop messing with wild animals, dude. You gotta stop having this charismatic megafauna towards wildlife. You know, bears are the worst to have this attachment to. But anything bigger than you, also, you know, with antlers 5 feet out from your head, or their head, i.e. elk and mule deer, like, come on, y'all, listen.
Yeah, 100%. If you aren't confident enough to fight somebody your size, a human, then don't go near a fucking wild animal that has no concern for you whatsoever.
These videos kill me.
You know, of these people running.
But I think stupid people should be, you know...
Play stupid games, win stupid prizes.
That's right, dude. It's hardship, right?
100%.
We're going to bring it back. Go through that. Go over there and provoke that elk and see what happens, please.
Yeah.
Like, just so that I know, I can tell that after this interaction with this wild animal that you're provoking, you've learned a lesson.
Yeah. I find it really interesting that the human race has evolved all these years, you know, to be able to use our fingers in ways that, you know, we can craft things and, you know, we've done incredible things. This generation and the last have evolved to the point where we no longer use fight or flight or instinct around wild animals.
No.
Like, it's crazy.
No.
Why would you go near a bear?
I don't know. Because you've had this media, like I said, charismatic megafauna. You've had this media ideology that these bears are Yogi Bears,
or
they're
the
Bernstein
Poohs.
Bears, or they're Winnie the Poohs, and that's all you've ever been exposed to. You know, I mean, I've got a bear head down in my living room on the wall. Like, that's a real thing.
Exactly.
Now, I see a lot of black bear videos, and black bears are not aggressive towards humans. They are very much,
they're a bit more docile.
They're protective.
Yeah.
But they're not. So
there have been cases of black bears hunting down humans, though, like, and eating them.
If that's true. If that's true, it's out of absolute starvation, desperation for food, in severe circumstances. For the most part, man, you know what I'm exposed to here in Arkansas, black bears, very, very. They come up in a tree with you, and they're just curious. You know,
they're just like big dogs.
They're big dogs.
You know, if not friend, why friend?
But not cute. Like, still, don't approach them, man. Leave them alone.
Yeah, well, that's my wife says to me all the time. She's like, if not friend, why friend shaped?
There you go. There you go.
You know,
I'll tell you what you need to watch out for are mountain lions.
Yeah, I've heard people say that there's a lot of people in Arkansas that are doubting the fact that there are mountain lions in Arkansas. Yeah,
they can doubt,
which is absolutely false, because there are mountain lions on Nebo.
Yep.
100%.
There's way too much evidence to support the claims that we do have, in fact, mountain lions here.
Yeah.
A couple of years ago, there was one here within a mile of my house. So
cool.
Should we talk about? Do you know? Are you following the dire wolf thing that's happening? Colossal. Okay, so
is that this wolf that they've brought back?
Yes.
Yeah. Well, they've not brought a wolf back from extinction.
Yes, they have.
Well, they have and they haven't. I was speaking to Isabel about this, and she's quite clued up to the way that nature works. They've not taken the wolf back from extinction. They've created a new species of wolf using the DNA of the dire wolf that is now extinct. It's not a purebred dire wolf, because they've taken DNA from a grey wolf or whatever it is, and they've taken the DNA extract from the original dire wolf, and they've created a subspecies of this dire wolf now. Because it's not a pedigree purebred dire wolf.
I would argue, I listened to the entire podcast with the CEO of Colossal. I would argue that they didn't use a species that's alive now to what am I thinking? The word to
reproduce.
Well, no, because they use synthetic wombs. I mean, basically, these things were born in a petri dish. I'm almost positive. We're gonna look it up.
Yeah, there you go. No, the recently de-extincted direwolf pups are not actually true direwolves. They're genetically modified grey wolves with specific genes from extinct direwolves inserted to give them a similar appearance, according to a New Scientist article. Colossal Biosciences, the company behind the project, claims they are the world's first successfully de-extincted animal, but experts disagree, citing the grey wolf genome's dominant dominant in presence.
I do see an AI result that says they used a technique that involved isolating cells from a grey wolf's blood, specifically endothelial progenitor cells, EPCs, and editing 14 key genes in the cell's nucleus to reassemble those of the direwolf. Okay. So yeah,
not to burst your bubble there.
Well, no. So it does say that while the resulting pups are essentially hybrids with a 99.9% gray wolf DNA, they carry genes that resemble those of the extinct direwolf. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, as the CEO of Colossal, he's probably not going to come out and say all of that.
No, 100%. No, it goes against
on the podcast. So,
yeah,
you know, this is why we fact check, right?
This is why we fact check. Did you see the other day that RFK Jr. said that he doesn't understand why people are taking medical advice from me?
No.
Did you not see that?
No.
Dude, I'm loving this period of politics in the United States.
I'm sure it's
It's
riveting.
fucking
You get to sit back and
It's
watch
awesome,
it
dude.
happen.
It's so
like
good.
a damn
because
train wreck.
The UK is not any better.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I'm gonna close that down.
Yeah. Another thing as well. I was speaking to my grandmother the other day. Apparently, there's record-breaking temperatures in Scotland right now.
Oh, really?
Yep.
So, I was thinking about this the other day, too. You guys are similarly on the same latitude plane as
Alaska.
And I was looking at
Moscow.
Korea.
Korea?
Let me double
Korea's
check.
in the south.
Because I was thinking of this the other day. I have never been in a colder climate in my entire life than when I was in Korea.
Dude, go to Scotland.
Yeah?
It's horrendous. In the wintertime, it'll get down to, minus 10 degrees Celsius? What's that in Fahrenheit?
Yeah, you got to talk Fahrenheit.
Yeah, I need to talk. Dumb it down.
You got to talk American.
10 Celsius in Fahrenheit. 14 degrees Fahrenheit.
Oh, yeah, that's not
So it'll be about 14 degrees Fahrenheit, but it'll also be like 110% humidity. So not only are you freezing cold, but you also feel like you're soaking wet. And it's horrendous being over there in the wintertime. Especially, you'll get a big dump of rain / sleet / snow around about October, November. And then when our clocks, they fall forward, fall back? I can't remember.
Coming up, the next one?
No, what is it? Fall forward or fall back?
No, it's fall back.
The fall back, yeah. So our clocks go back. But in the wintertime, we'll maybe get 6 hours of daylight, realistically. And there won't be any, the sun will never really rise that high above the horizon in the wintertime at all. So you get up for work and it's dark, and you go home from work and it's dark.
This Google Earth isn't showing me the lats, but this one will.
What are you looking for?
I'm telling you, it's up there. So it's next to, it's on the same lat as Beijing.
What?
Korea.
I thought we were talking about Scotland.
Yeah, we are. I was trying to see in reference to Scotland versus Korea, like where the lats fall. So Scotland does seem to be quite a bit more towards the North Pole.
Yeah, Scotland. What do you mean quite a bit more towards the North Pole? It is towards the North Pole.
No, I know it is. As opposed to Korea.
Yeah, of course it is. Korea's in the southern hemisphere nearly.
Yeah, but dude, I'm telling you, I went to Korea and they issued out the only time I've ever been issued in my life extreme cold weather gear specifically to survive in Korea in the winter.
Yeah.
And I think 14 degrees is nothing, man.
I think 14 degrees here. I think Korea is probably... Yeah, but you guys get 14 degrees in the wintertime, but it's really dry.
Yeah.
There's no humidity.
Right.
As back home in the UK, we get 14 degrees Fahrenheit, and it's like 100% humidity. So it's
with the humidity,
it's better freezing cold.
Oh, gotcha.
So when you go out, it's the same aspect of you guys going outside in the summertime, and it's 110%, and you get sweaty, and the moisture is still in the air. So essentially, there's still an element of humidity in your freezer when you go in there. There's moisture that is in there.
Yeah.
When you open that and that first hit of boof, that moisture that hits your face, that freezing cold moisture, that's the whole atmosphere in Scotland back home. It is so cold back in Scotland in the wintertime. There are people I watched a video not too long ago, I think it was on Instagram or on TikTok, can't remember, same difference these days, but there was a guy that was explaining that the Navy SEALs, they go through this cold water training where they're outside and it's so cold, and they're throwing water on these guys, and it's also humid. I can't remember what it is, but they're training these guys to withstand freezing cold temperatures. well, that's what we live in Scotland. And there's young boys running around in shorts and t-shirt in the wintertime. And he said that young children in Scotland are essentially Navy SEALs.
Nice.
It is really cold, dude.
I see now. I guess I didn't think about the humidity and the opposite effect because we don't ever really have that. You're right. It's always dry.
It's really dry down here.
So adding in that extra element.
Not to mention that it's also really windy, especially on the coast. So you get this constant freezing cold wind that's coming. I mean, we had a few years ago. It was called the Beast from the East. We called it.
Yeah.
And it was a storm that came from Eastern Europe that came over into the UK, and it dumped a load of snow and it caused chaos.
How big in reference is the country of Scotland to some of the states or section?
Scotland's roughly about the same size as Arkansas.
Really?
Yeah.
Really?
Thereabouts. Yeah. In length. I don't know in width. Width, Arkansas is probably wider.
Well,
you can drive from the north of Scotland to the south of Scotland in about 4 hours.
Really?
Yeah. You can drive at its narrowest point. You can probably drive from east to west in about an hour and a half, 2 hours.
Okay.
Scotland's tiny, dude.
Okay.
Scotland is really small. Like, you can do back home. We have this road trip. It's been said to be one of the most beautiful road trips in the world now. It's called the North Coast 500. And it goes all the way around the north coast of Scotland, all the way up from Inverness up to John O'Groats, which is the most northerly point of Scotland, along the top to the west side, down, and you travel southwest. And then when you get to the southwest, you travel back east along to Inverness. It's just a big 500-mile loop the whole way up and round. And people will do that in a week. 5 days. They'll do like 100 miles a day. And they're said to be one of the most beautiful road trips in the world. Have you got a picture of it there?
I was looking at, I don't know where the border is.
For what?
Between, would it be England and Scotland?
Yeah.
Okay, so the border between England and Scotland, there it is. It's at the, it's north of Carlisle and south of Dumfries. Kind of that line is right there.
Yeah.
That Northumberland National Park, kind of right in the middle. So then Scotland and Ireland, relatively same size, right? Land mass. Okay. So yeah. I'm just looking at comparisons across here. But damn, dude, y'all are. I'm looking at the northern tip of, what is that?
Was that John O'Groats?
Sweden.
Oh, Sweden
is covered in ice.
But they're in the Arctic Circle.
They are in the Arctic Circle.
I mean, the north of Scotland, where I'm from, isn't too far from the Arctic Circle.
You're not even that far from Iceland.
No, so to fly from New York to Iceland and fly from Glasgow to Iceland is the same length of time. It's the same flight.
Okay.
Because a load of my buddy, one of my friends back home, he goes over to Iceland at least once a year. Really? I've never been. I'd love to go.
Yeah.
But I don't know if you remember a few years ago, there was that volcano that erupted in Iceland.
Yeah.
And there was a huge ash cloud that just disrupted the entirety of Europe for weeks.
Yeah.
And Scotland was severely disrupted because of that. That ash cloud came right over the top of Scotland.
Okay.
But if you stand on... I mean, France isn't even that far away from the south of England. On a good summer's day, you can see France from England. You can see across the channel, I believe. I don't know if that's true or not. But yeah.
That's cool.
The Europe is unbelievably, packed together.
Yeah.
I know guys that have driven, from the UK over to France, taken the ferry, and then you go over to France and they'll do a European road trip and you can see like 6 or 7 different countries in a week.
If we had I'm going to speak out of turn because I don't know about our train system very well, the Amtrak system, but if we had a better or better access to it, I feel like you could see a good portion of the U.S. in a week. But when people come to the U.S., it's not like we're going to backpack the U.S. or we're going to take a train ride all around Europe.
Yeah,
I mean, all around America.
No,
when
people do that.
When we go to Europe, it's like, hey, we're going to backpack Europe, or we're going to go take a train, and it'll take us about a week, and we'll see all of you. You can't do that in America.
Yeah, you can.
Not see it in a week.
No, not see. Well, you can't see the entirety of Europe in a week, but you can see a majority of.
Like the hot spots?
The hot spots where you want to go. But like you could easily, I know that there are people come over to the US from all over the world and will do like motorbike trips across the United States, especially along, your old Route 66. A lot of people do that along the interstate. But like my dad, he's spoken a few times about wanting to do an American road trip and go out west, and do that, which would be sick. Which would be really cool. But yeah, you can go over to Europe and travel around and see as much as you possibly can, within a week. It's really cool to be able to go over there and do that.
And I was kind of giving you that testament of that it's packed. Maybe what I'm thinking of out here, America, we have a lot more of just that open.
Yeah, there's a lot more open space. I mean, if you look at like a satellite image of the United States at nighttime, it's not that different from, say, Russia. Russia's, if you look at a nighttime photo satellite image, all of their cities are very condensed in one single area. It's the same in the United States, essentially. You've got the whole East Coast is kind of very much lit up. And then straight down the middle, there's nothing. But then if you go over to the West Coast, up by California and down, there's loads of light again. Yeah. Because it's exactly the same. Yeah. As if you look at a satellite image of the UK, the whole of the UK is just like lit up. Yeah. Because it's so small. Yeah. Scotland's not so much. You transition
from city to city and you don't even realize you're transitioning.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. For sure. But then one thing that I've noticed over here is regional accents in the UK. Like, you don't even have to travel 10 miles and a regional accent has changed.
Oh, okay. That's
because
cool.
I grew up in Inverness, Nairn area, and the accent is vastly different to that. If you go over like 20 miles to the east, it's completely different. Yeah. Completely different. If you travel down south, it starts getting more thick in a different aspect in that sense. Go all the way up north, or over to the west coast, which is particularly more, separated from the rest of Scotland, they'll still speak like Gaelic in a sense, but English with a Gaelic accent, if that makes sense.
Is that how you say that? Gaelic?
Gaelic, yeah.
Not Gaelic.
Apparently Gaelic is Irish and Gaelic is Scottish.
Oh, okay.
But we all just call it Gaelic. Yeah. It's not Gaelic.
That's cool.
Gaelic. But yeah, it is. It's super interesting, the things that you can and can't see, compared to the United States and in the rest of the UK, I'm like a road trip from where I'm from down to London. It was like a 13-hour road trip.
Damn.
Nobody does that.
Yeah.
We just don't know. You'll fly from Scotland down to England.
Yeah.
9 times out of 10.
Yeah, I want to go, man. I do. At some point.
It's cool. You definitely should, especially at the moment.
Well, at the moment, it's probably the worst for me to be able to get over there. But, taking the boys, we've, dedicated to ourselves to enrich the kids' lives with travel. It's important. It's very important because I traveled as a kid. My parents took me to all around the U.S., all around the southern U.S. We didn't venture too much north of the Mason-Dixon, it seems like, but we did a lot of southern traveling, to the beaches and Louisiana and Texas, and I have family in Arizona, so I went out there. But man, going back to a topic we'd said last episode about perspective, and you get a much more better perspective on life when you go and realize that there's more outside of your bubble, outside of your daily, Arkansas scenery and folk and everything else, and just get to traveling, if nothing else, just for gaining perspective. But it's going to be so rewarding for you, man. Travel is amazing, and we want to give the boys that travel. So.
Yeah, I mean, my mother said to me the other day that me moving to the United States was the making of me. Like, I've done more, like I said in the last time, since living here than I could have possibly been able to do living back in the UK. Wow. For sure, 100%. Anyway.
Yeah, man.
I've got stuff to do.
Okay.
And I believe you've got a show to go to that your boys are in.
Yeah.
But we will.
We're gonna figure this. We're gonna figure this out.
Yeah, for sure.
We're gonna figure out how to continue to drive this thing in direction. I enjoy sitting with you though. I really do, man.
It's good fun.
It's a blast.
Yeah, it's something to do for sure. 100%. And obviously, if you guys get the chance, hop over to Instagram, YouTube, Spotify, and stuff like that, and give us a like, follow, and stuff, and try and get some traction on this thing. The more traction we get, the more views we get, the better the content that we can try and create in the future. You know?
And if there's something that people want us to talk about, and give us some chats, that'd be cool too.
100%. Well, anyway, we'll catch you in a bit. Goodbye.